When it comes to the NFL draft, expect the unexpected. Full stop. But even if you buy that unconditionally, no one, and I mean no one, could have envisioned what happened on a Thursday night in 2016 when a can't-miss prospect plummeted out of the top 10, when the dreams of the best lineman in the draft being selected like it went up in smoke. 5 years later, the gas mask memory lingers. But I'm here to tell you that had that video never leaked, the entire landscape of the league would have changed. Hear me out. But to get to this multiverse, we've got to rewind to 2013 when the nation's top offensive tackle was a Lake City, Florida kid named Laremy Tunsil, a 6'5", 295-pound behemoth. As a high schooler, Tunsil was quite literally head and shoulders above the rest of his competition. Throughout his high school career, Tunsil had worked his way up the recruiting rankings, becoming a unanimous 5-star recruit, the number 1 player in the state of Florida, and the number 4 player nationally. While the Georgia Bulldogs were thought to be the favorite for Tunsil's services, he ended up pivoting to the Ole Miss Rebels late in the recruiting process. As a freshman, Tunsil played every game, starting all but 4. He was one of only 2 true freshmen to start at Ole Miss as a full-time left tackle. As a sophomore, he started 11 games on the left side, missing time due to a partially torn bicep. But prior to his first draft-eligible season, Tunsil's stepfather accused Laremy of accepting improper benefits from sports agents, frowned upon in this economy. Tunsil was suspended by the NCAA for the first 7 games of the season, but impressed scouts when he stepped on the field, including a stonewalling of Texas A&M pass rusher and soon-to-be first overall pick, Myles Garrett. After the 2015 season, Tunsil declared for the draft. Throughout the pre-draft process, he was touted as the guy to get on the offensive line, potentially even at number 1 overall to the Tennessee Titans. But as the spring wore on, the Titans traded the top pick to the Rams so LA could take a quarterback, and the Eagles traded up to number 2 for a QB as well. But even though the first 2 picks were slated to be signal callers, entering draft weekend, Tunsil's stock was still sky high. There were plenty of evaluators who saw him as a top 3 pick in the draft and a surefire top 5 pick. At least that's what they thought. Just before the Rams went on the clock to start the 2016 NFL Draft, a video surfaced on social media of a man who looked an awful lot like Laremy Tunsil smoking weed through a gas mask. It didn't take long to confirm that the man who looked like Laremy Tunsil was, in fact, Laremy Tunsil, and with that, the NFL world plunged headfirst into uncharted waters. Though Tunsil was one of the blue-chip players in the draft, there was no time for teams to background check what was evolving in real time, and the draft marched on. Jared Goff, number 1, Carson Wentz, number 2, and then the drama unfolded. It was reported that the then San Diego Chargers were interested in an offensive tackle and had Tunsil graded higher than Notre Dame OT Ronnie Stanley. But with uncertainty swirling around Tunsil, they went to the other side of the ball and selected pass rusher Joey Bosa instead. Picks 4 and 5 went by, but neither choice was Tunsil. Then, at number 6, the first offensive lineman came off the board. It was Stanley. A strong prospect in his own right, the consensus All-American wasn't held to the same scouting renown as Tunsil, and with Stanley now off the board, it was fair to wonder how far the top 3 talent would slide. Pick 7, 8, 9, 10 went by. No Tunsil. By this time, every broadcast and every football fan was replaying the gas mask video and watching the viral video change what was unfolding by the moment. For teams picking in the middle of the first, every free second they had was spent trying to gather information on the video, how it went out, and whether or not it should change their evaluation of Tunsil. As the night wore on and the camera returned time and again to Tunsil, pick by pick by pick, he sat in the back of that green room until, with the 13th pick in the 2016 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Laremy Tunsil, offensive tackle, Ole Miss. It was about 8 to 10 picks later than it should have been, but Tunsil finally heard his name called, put on the Dolphins hat, and put the video behind him. As a rookie in 2016, he played in 14 games, 13 of those at left guard. The following year, he kicked out to left tackle and spent the next 2 seasons developing into one of the better young blindside protectors in the league. Good enough, in fact, that desperate for help up front, Houston sent 2 first-rounders and a second to Miami for Tunsil, wide receiver Kenny Stills, and a package of other picks. Since then, Tunsil has turned in back-to-back Pro Bowl campaigns before a season-ending injury in 2021, while the Tunsil Haul has been the gift that keeps on giving for the Dolphins, helping them land Jalen Waddle, Javon Holland, and in one of the wildest moments of a bonkers offseason, Tyreek Hill in a blockbuster. So if all of that isn't crazy enough, it's time to twist reality and figure out the answer to the question, what would have happened had that video never been leaked? Let's get weird. As Tunsil started to slip, the door opened for Ronnie Stanley to be the first lineman drafted. It was reported in the aftermath that the Baltimore Ravens had Tunsil higher than Stanley, and while it's worth considering the possibility of the Chargers taking Tunsil at 3, Joey Bosa would still have been impossible to pass up. So in this reality, it's the Ravens who take Tunsil at number 6 overall. So now the Tennessee Titans, who drafted Michigan State's Jack Conklin at 8, land Stanley instead, pushing Conklin down to the Dolphins at 13. The two-tone blue had Taylor Lewan coming off his first season as the starting tackle, and Stanley would give Tennessee their right tackle to establish 2 young bookends. The Dolphins had aging vet Brandon Albert at left tackle and former first-rounder Jawan James on the right side, and even with Tunsil gone, OT still represented a forward-thinking future need. Conklin makes sense here, allowing Miami to move James over to left tackle when they moved on from Albert. With Conklin in Miami, there's never a trade between the Dolphins and the Texans, and Tyreek Hill is now a Jet. But with the Texans unable to land a left tackle via trade in 2019, they struggle, unable to protect franchise quarterback Deshaun Watson, and miss the playoffs. Feeling the heat, Houston's then head coach and GM Bill O'Brien makes a splashy deal for offensive tackle Trent Williams shortly after the start of the 2020 league year, sending the same package that would have gone to Miami for Tunsil to the Washington football team. Washington owner Dan Snyder, instead of digging in on Williams, cashes in on a king's ransom for his aging left tackle. Downside for us, the football fans, we never see Trent Williams in motion during the playoffs. Draft night, 2020. Washington still has their number 2 overall pick and still uses it on pass rusher Chase Young. But thanks to their Trent Williams deal, they also have 19th overall. Remember, Houston's worse here than their 10-6 finish in divisional round berth IRL. Miami finishes slightly better than Conklin, rearranging the back end of the top 10. Chargers at 5, Cardinals at 6, Panthers at 7, and the Dolphins at 8. At number 5, the Chargers sprint to the podium to bring Tua Tagovailoa to the West Coast. Worried that Carolina would take a quarterback in front of them, Miami trades number 8 and 2 second-rounders to Arizona for number 6, and they draft Justin Herbert. The Panthers stay pat with Derek Brown. The Cardinals take Isaiah Simmons at number 8, but with their newly acquired 18th overall pick, draft LSU wide receiver Justin Jefferson. And paired with Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins, the Cardinals finished 10-6 and reached the playoffs in 2020 as a wild card team. Washington uses their extra first-rounder from the Williams deal to take Brandon Ayuk. In the 2021 draft, Washington, now armed with the Texans pick at number 3 overall, uses their top selection on quarterback Justin Fields. With Fields off the board at number 3, the Falcons, who embrace their rebuild in this reality, take Trey Lance 4th overall, while the Bengals still select Jamar Chase to pair with Joe Burrow. The Eagles at number 6 can't pass on the upside of Kyle Pitts, while the Lions, Panthers, and Broncos stay true to our timeline with Penei Sewell, J.C. Horn, and Patrick Surtain II, respectively. Feeling the heat with quarterbacks flying off the board, the Bears still trade up, but this time with the Cowboys at number 10 to take Mac Jones. The Giants take Jalen Waddle at 11. The Jets still trade up with Minnesota to pair Zach Wilson with Devontae Smith at 14, while the Cowboys eventually land Greg Newsome II at 20th overall. Still in need of a left tackle, the Dolphins use the 18th pick on Christian Darrisaw instead of Jalen Phillips, who goes to Minnesota 23rd overall after their trade with the New York Jets. And with the Texans' second-round pick, Washington selects Taven Jenkins after still getting Jamin Davis, whom they love, at number 19 overall. And to round out the first-round changes, with no trade back from the Giants, Urban Meyer gets to select Kadarius Toney at 25, like he always wanted. He still doesn't make it through the season. If we fast forward to the present day, Justin Fields is settling in as the unquestioned starter in D.C. with an offense that has Terry McLaurin, Brandon Ayuk, Antonio Gibson, and Curtis Samuel as his offensive weapons, with Taven Jenkins and Morgan Moses as his two offensive tackles. The Arizona Cardinals have a top 5 NFL offense, with Kyler Murray throwing to DeAndre Hopkins and Justin Jefferson, while the Atlanta Falcons have their QB of the future in Trey Lance. The Texans, well, they're still bad. Not even a massive butterfly effect helps their fortunes. Joe Douglas set Zach Wilson up for success by pairing Devontae Smith with Tyreek Hill. And the Miami Dolphins would have Justin Herbert as their signal caller, with Christian Darrisaw as his blindside protector for new Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel. As you might expect, Laremy Tunsil's gas mask moment changed a lot that night. And this was one reality we had to try and answer ourselves. And that's why I asked you. So just hear me out. I'm Mark Whiteman with the Draft Network. Thanks for listening. What NFL rabbit hole do you want us to peer down next? Rate, review, subscribe, and leave your comments. Always looking for more NFL Draft multiverses to travel.